And we are live. Hello again. I am Adam. This is Highly Articulated, and I'm very, very excited for this episode because this is like the year in review. This is the sort of best of. This is the greatest hits 2022. We're going to be talking about our top 5 favorite figures. We may use that term a little bit loosely. We will see. But our top 5 favorite figures of 2022. And I have 3 very special guests joining me. They have all been on the channel before, which is, because they're people that I like and that I like to talk to. So without any further ado, let's end my rant and let's jump on here and say hello. We will start with the person that is closest to me, geographically speaking. If this will work, hold on. Why wouldn't it work? There it is. Austin, what's going on, buddy?
Yeah, it's Christmas time. Woo!
It's snowing. It's Christmas time. I've got my eggnog.
Nice.
I'm feeling festive. I'm feeling good. I'm still nice and toasty and warm inside, but baby, it's cold outside. With that being said, I believe the next closest to me proximity wise, AI Collectibles. What's going on, my friend? How cold and snowy is it out where you are?
It is snowing, bud, and it's kind of what I do for a living. So after I get off here, I'm going to push some snow and make it easier for everybody to get to work tomorrow. But yeah, no, it's it's great. I'm glad to be here. A great panel. I enjoy doing this, so enjoy chatting with you and meeting new faces. So yeah, it'll be a good time.
And just a quick shout out. AI, I was on your channel on Friday evening, and we basically did this on Friday. So we should have this down. This would be no problem for us. We've already sort of been through our top 5s. Now, quick question: did you change your top 5 since Friday?
My top 5 is locked in, man.
Okay.
Like my bottom 5 of my top 10 keeps switching, but my top 5 is locked in, man. Yeah.
I went over my top 5 after we chatted, and I what I realized was my natural instincts were right, and I think so, but I kind of tweaked it a little bit, but that'll make sense when we get there. Without further ado, I will add the furthest geographically located person, who ironically has a warm fire behind him. But I don't think there's a lot of snow in the Bay Area. Brick something, what's going on, my friend?
No, there is. I just have to switch the video, and there's tons of snow. But right now we're good. Hi, folks.
Now the chat is already hopping, which is atypical. But I guess that's testament to my guests probably more than it is to me. But we've got Radical Toys, we've got Ostradamus Toys, Ratface 44. Who else is here? Toy Stories says, "What's up, man?" Dazatron's Diorama Llama. Even folks from the UK. Well, that's geographically not very close to us. But what's going on, man? And Sam Rock is here as well. What's going on, Sam Rock? So thank you everybody for joining. Hopefully we can entertain and have some fun here. We usually shoot for an hour. We never make it. It's usually an hour and a half ish or more. But let's get into it. Let's have some fun. Without any further ado, Now stay tuned to the end because I will have some details about a Christmas Day draw / giveaway that I'm going to be doing. Just because I'm just feeling so festive and I'm in such a giving mood. But what we're going to do is we're just going to go clockwise and we'll go 5, through to our number ones. And, time permitting, we may do some honorable mentions or, some adjacent to, our favorites. Austin, what's your number 5, my friend?
My number 5, and part of it admittedly might be the new toy hype, but right now I have to give it to the G.I. Joe classified Tiger Force Outback.
Nice.
I fell in love with this figure. I didn't plan on getting it. I made a Hasbro Pulse order, and I'm like, you know what? I can justify it now.
It's cool. He's
cool.
got a kitty shirt.
Yeah. But having it, I mean, G.I. Joe classified figures are just great to begin with, but there's just something about this head sculpt. And they shaded it, and it's incredible. And so the reason why I made top 5 is because most of the figures that I collect are really expensive. Well, and by that I mean $100 plus.
Yeah.
So the fact that I was able to get something that you can just find at Toys R Us and be so happy with it, that alone was enough to make it into the top 5.
And to that point too, I think it's funny because every once in a while I'll find a figure that was kind of on my list, but it wasn't a need. So I typically will pre-order anything that I feel like I need. And I use that term incorrectly by the definition of need. However, every once in a while I'll come across a figure and I'm like, well, it's $12. And then it just becomes one of my favorites. And part of it is because it never would have been in my collection if it hadn't been $12, but there's less guilt associated with it with an inexpensive toy, I think. Aaron, AI, what's your number 5?
Well, like Austin, I tend to delve into the little more expensive stuff. So I'm going with the 1/6 Mondo Joker exclusive Batman animated series. To this day, it's still my favorite show. I love it. It holds up. Kevin Conroy is a gem. Rest his soul. But yeah, Mark Hamill as the Joker has always been my definitive Joker. Heath Ledger killed it, but this guy is where it's at, man. Yeah. And like we discussed, when I found out that it was the same person that was Luke Skywalker, I was blown away, man. Like when I was younger, right? But this guy, he's fantastic. He comes with 5 extra head sculpts. The box, which I should have brought down, the art on the box is beautiful. I think like a lot of companies, man, I feel the same way about Mezco. They're finally hitting where I wanted them to be when they first came out, right? So this guy, he's solid. He stands well. He poses well. The paint apps are beautiful. I know some people have got him, and some of the paint apps have been hit or miss, but mine are all spot on. My eyes line up. He's a great looking figure, man, and I really enjoy him. He has a presence on the shelf, which is usually what I go for. So yeah, that's my number 5.
Good choice.
Yeah, that's a really great figure. That's there's lines that's definitely one of those lines where whether it's the Mondo, animated Batman or the Mondo Motu stuff, there's a part of me that's like, well, I could probably just get one of those. I don't need, but then I'm like, I don't collect. That's not even in the realm of what I collect. Such beautiful figures that it's like.
And I want to just because of Mondo, and man, I already know next year I have a feeling Battle Cat's going to be on my list because it's beautiful, and I can't imagine it not being as beautiful or more beautiful than what we've seen in pictures and what's been shown. So yeah, they're doing well. They're killing it right
now. Brick, what's your number 5?
So I'm gonna follow Austin's lead and go with cheapest first, most affordable first. And so for this one, I'll just do here, and then some of the other ones.
Yeah. Just let me know when you want. I can pull it up.
So depending on when you get it, it's really cheap actually. So a lot of these Masterverse figures, they end up going on sale, and this one is definitely really accessible. This is the new Eternia Skeletor, and so actually I'm kind of like back into toys, and a lot of it started because I knew these Masterverse were coming back, and I was like, okay. And after a while, it was that sort of nostalgia. It's like, okay, cool. These are great. I'm familiar with these. I like the new version. And then they hit us with, hey, remember that awesome concept art? What if we did this? And the notion of a Skeletor with a goatee. Yeah, I mean, come on. So
awesome.
Yeah, that's why I have this guy in, and I would absolutely agree with Daz that the head was way better on this version than a lot of them.
I think too. Like in terms of that line, in terms of the Masterverse line, that is kind of close enough to every version that if you got that one with the multiple heads, you could kind of set them up in whatever sort of setup you had. I look for versatility. I know that there's definitely people that will buy like all 4 versions that Masterverse does.
Yep.
But that new Eternia one is pretty dang good. That Barbarian He-Man too, that's kind of the match to it.
Yep.
Just really great figures.
Yeah, this one here.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I think if you look at my other Masterverse, I tend to pop off the heads because I'm not super crazy about some of the things they give us. But this one, I'm like, I love it. And there are a couple of them that are like that, and I really love it.
Mm-hmm. GL Shaw, which I believe is Greg, but he usually has a different. I usually see him in a Facebook chat group, so it's usually not that icon, which is throwing me off. He says that Skeletor is a great interpretation. He says the head's slightly larger, that balances out the proportions. Yeah.
Also, shout out to Mattel for having pinless joints, like all of them pinless.
Mm-hmm. People complain about a little bit of the articulation, but I mean they look really good, and I will be talking about articulation in my list for sure, and I don't need all of the articulation. Most of it is great. I don't need all of it. Depending, one of my honorable mentions is also not in the top 5 because of a couple little articulation things where I just thought sometimes it's a must, sometimes it's less important, but the heart wants what the heart wants, and so your top 5's got to be on instinct. But yeah, those Masterverse figures are fantastic, and price point they're really really great as well. My top 5, it is kind of an objective top 5, which is weird because I just said the heart wants what the heart wants. When I did my top 5 with AI. I had sort of all of the Cobra Troop Builders as sort of one honorable mention. But I have actually changed my list a little bit. This guy is now my top 5 in the line. And this is more of a brain versus heart, because I would say that I like the Alley Viper more for nostalgia reasons. But this guy is awesome with the hands, all the sort of different parts that it comes with. The deco is just spot on. The vintage bat is a cool figure, but it was never one that I really loved. And this guy was an upgrade for me in terms of how much I cared about the figure. I love the Alley Viper because I loved the Alley Viper, as a kid. But the bat is a phenomenal looking figure. And I think a great price point for what you're getting.
Everything fits in his backpack. It's crazy, man. He's an awesome figure, man. He really is. He's one of my favorite, which is kind of a bit of contentious because us in Canada, like I know I didn't get mine from Hasbro Pulse till like late January or early February this year. So for me, it's 2022, where I know some people in the States were getting it the year before, but it's our. You know what I mean? Like 2022. It's what we got, what we think is the best for us, right?
Yeah. And the rules were sort of preferably released and purchased in 2022, but I can't tell people that they can't put a figure on their list. So that's Austin, what's your number 4?
Number 4, because now we're into the more expensive stuff for me. My number 4 has to be the new Mezco Deluxe Wolverine. This figure actually has like top spot potential for me, but the biggest downside for me was the price point. Since it's a deluxe version, I believe it was retailing at 155 American. And it comes with a lot of like the Sentinel base and all that, which is really cool. I could live without it. But otherwise, the figure itself, tons of heads, tons of hands, even has the first appearance heads. It's incredible. And for a Mezco figure, I'm usually really careful with my Mezco figures. This one, not that I want to test it, but it really feels like this one can take a beating. You can get a more dynamic posing without fear of anything snapping. So that, again, if it wasn't for that price point, it would probably be number 1. But as is, still phenomenal. It makes number 4.
It's awesome.
That's and it's the Mezco ones for me. Like I think AI, you were mentioning this with Mezco, that like the proportions up till sort of this year there was just something about the proportions that looked a little bit weird. They looked kind of stubby, and they kind of like,
the fabric they used for the clothing was thicker. It was off-putting because they didn't have that stature, right?
Yeah, and I haven't gotten into them kind of for that reason. Like they look amazing. Everybody swears by how great the quality is and sort of the detail and the design and so on. But I've just never pulled the trigger on a Mezco figure for that reason. There hasn't been one that I saw that I was like, that one I definitely want in my collection on my shelf. But they're starting to get there. I mean, some of the stuff that they've released has been phenomenal. But then again, I'm sort of like, no, I must.
It's a rabbit hole.
I must say no.
Yeah, like everything else, man.
Yeah,
exactly. AI, what is your number 4?
Again, he's a bit pricey, and he's the size of a small toddler. But I had to, man. Like I said on my stream, he's impressive, man. Like I picked him up, like I said, with 2 other Hot Toys. One I planned on being on my top 5, and this blew it out of the water, man. Like, he comes with 3 figures that are accessories, essentially, right? Yeah, like the articulation, like I said, everything's ratcheted. Like the stuff they learned from their mistakes with the Sentinel. The guy stands, he's sturdy. You're not scared he's going to topple over or break or knock everything else off the shelf. He's got articulated fingers. He's got a light feature. He's got multiple face plates, a different head sculpt. Yeah, like the paint and detail. He's just and the sheer size, man. Like I mentioned on my stream, when I went and picked it up, it was like the box is like 3 feet wide by like 2 feet tall, man. And I'm stuffing this in the back of my truck, and I was like, holy shit, like how am I gonna get this in the house? And it was funny when I pulled this out, because I have it back on the shelf, like it's not hidden, but I had it here ready for my stream, and my wife walks in and she's like, what the hell is that? That's huge. And I'm like, I don't know, it's been there for a while. What are you talking about? But yeah, no, he's impressive, man, and I know he's a bit on the expensive side, but I didn't do the HasLab, and like I mentioned before, I got pretty lucky and got him for almost retail, so I couldn't pass on it. And yeah, I'm surprised he's not higher up on my list, but there's a lot of good stuff that came out this year. So
you should have came home. You should have came home with a box and said, "Honey, guess who's pregnant?" He was on my list as well at a certain point, but I don't know. At a certain point, I kind of took him aside. But definitely for me, that's like toy of the year, just in terms of what it's an achievement. It's a huge achievement.
Yeah.
And I've loved the old ones that they've made, but it's not Galactus, right? And just something about having that huge figure as well as all the other figures that come with him is it's something else.
Yeah, you mentioned that, AI, that his accessories are in fact other figures.
Yeah, 3 Marvel Legends, man. Like it's it's awesome, man. It was like even the opening of him was like an event.
Brick, you're number 4.
Yeah, number 4. Do you mind if we go do the other one? Do you see
problem.
that in there?
Yep.
Just because it's all right. So still going with the cheapest up, but this is the Hammond Collection T-Rex
with Battle Cat's harness.
That's the Hammond Collection Battle Cat.
It is the Hammond Collection Battle Cat. And just the articulation on this thing.
That sculpt is good.
The eye paint on him, man.
It's actually kind of, it's a translucent eye, and then the sort of there's deco underneath, I'm assuming, a little black pupil. So that's actually kind of a translucent plastic that you're looking at. You've got the, oops. Sorry, I think you've.
Oh, what just happened there? That might have been my fault. Anyway, we can't hear you, Brick.
We're doing it live, folks.
All right, it's the Hammond Collection Battle Cat. He looks angry. I'll interpret what I'm seeing until I can get Brick back.
Oh, this could get interesting.
There you go.
I know. Yeah. So was he still on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, he's more interesting than I am anyway. So yeah, just the level of the posability on this thing. And as you'll see, I have a fondness for critters. There's even kind of a bendy tail here at the end.
So the tail has, I think, like 2 points of articulation, but then it's that like the wired rubber at the end, right?
Right.
Yeah. So super posable.
And just, he's look pinless. No. Double, he's got
double jointed knees and elbows.
So I mean, come on, Mattel's consistent. So anyway, yeah. And yes, I have a saddle on him because he's King Grayskull's steed on my shelf.
A lot of people that are into the Hammond Collection have sort of had the same feeling about that T-Rex for sure. So I've heard a lot of people talking about, if you're gonna buy one dinosaur action figure this year, make it the Hammond Collection T-Rex.
Yeah, and as you'll see, I've got an affinity for these sort of non-human body types, as you'll see in a little bit. But yeah,
fair enough.
Love this. The sculpt is great. In my head, still counts as a figure. Yep. There you go. Wow.
Now, before I do my number 4, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Trevor. 16 Shooter says, "Hey guys, I'm on Dan Who's show, but I'm watching without sound." That's pretty awesome.
That is awesome, man. Trevor's a legend, dude.
Trevor was on Toying Around the other day, Kevin, Thursday unboxing, and Kevin was saying that no matter where or when, there's a YouTube video, Trevor seems to be in the comments, which is so true. There'll be like 2 people watching, and Trevor will be commenting. Will481 says, "What's up, everyone?"
What's up, Will? Welcome, buddy. Great show last night.
Just to clarify, is Trevor saying he's watching that stream, or he's like a guest on the stream?
I think he's on that stream.
He's a guest on
watching
the
this
stream.
stream.
That's awesome.
Which is that's very flattering for one of us. I don't know which one he's here to see, but that's but Greg says, "What I love most about the larger Jurassic Park dinos is how they incorporate that masticular webbing in the corners of the mouth." Yes, and they're beautiful because when you see that and it's like a plastic piece, if you don't open it correctly, it's kind of like awkward, but to allow it to kind of stretch and move and sort of fit the figure properly,
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's a great piece. And again, if space and money weren't options, I'd probably already have that in my collection as well. Larry Reed says, "Sweet Dino Rider." He's not wrong. Greg said Trevor is a sophisticated AI program operating out of a deep data bunker somewhere in New Jersey. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's he's like Max Headroom. Like we feel like we've seen him, but have we? Maybe it's just a very sophisticated AI, so he can be everywhere all at the same time.
Yeah, on Thursday on Toying Around, he had a lot of real friendly. I guess I'd say an openness to talking about AI and art. So maybe you're onto something there.
Well, and you know what? That's a good point. That he was very
he's a plant. He's actually AI.
He had a very favorable opinion about it. So maybe that's
I'm teasing Trevor. Yeah.
It's a safety protocol for his programming. My number 4, following in the footsteps of Trevor is an acronym.
It's a TREVOR 116, I believe is what it is.
Yeah.
16.
And it's now sentient, so watch out.
And I love this T-Rex, but I mean, I don't know if you necessarily need to keep him on the big old screen.
No, I'm just going to switch it up. So my number 4 is also a mount.
Nice.
Yes. I went with the most Canadian mount that I had, which is Alder the Moose from Mythic Legions, the Alithia Wave. This thing is awesome. It is really, really big. It is a big, chunky boy. Relative to the bat, that's what we're looking at. So the bat stands about shoulder height, to Alder. Huge figure, awesome figure. This was one of the first, I only sort of jumped into Mythic Legions pretty much this year, and it was largely because of this guy. I have this one from a Mythic Legion shelf, and I have another one that is going to become a custom mount for a Mountie once I get all the parts that I need to do a classified series Mountie to be the official mascot of the Canadian G.I. Joe classified group Northern Outpost, which I thought I might be able to get around to by July of this year, but I unfortunately didn't. So I'm sort of tentatively setting July 1st Canada Day as the due date, my personal due date for when I can get that together. And I think it should come together with that Sergeant Slaughter figure, which I also ordered an extra of. So that's but it's an absolutely great piece. Great articulation as well. It's definitely the best articulation I've ever seen in a sort of 110 scale moose. It might be the only articulated moose I've seen as well, but I'll take it.
Yeah, for a second there, you had me scrambling, trying to think of wow,
the other one. Yeah, the other moose. Like, oh yeah, that moose isn't as well articulated.
It must be like a big thing in Canada.
Moving. Well, that's number 4. So we're moving on to number 3. We're working at a good pace, so we may get around to just discussion at the end, which is fine. I'm always worried that when we do these, it's gonna go for we'll get to number 4 and it'll be an hour and a half in. But go ahead, or sorry.
Real quick, I saw AIs there and I was like, that is a dope dinosaur. Oh, it's a dog.
That dinosaur moves on its own.
Whoa.
Now I'm sure
the AI formerly known as Trevor says moose.
I'm sure Adam knew one of these figures from this line was going to make my top 5. So it is the Storm Collectibles. I went with Mortal Kombat Kintaro. This figure is it's probably the best Storm figure I feel, and I have a lot at this point. This one came out not too long ago, I think 3 months ago. Again, they've mastered the forearm articulation. The torso articulation is fantastic. It's really the best way I can describe it. It's almost seamless, especially with his strap there. You can't even really tell, but their torso articulation is there. One of the things I love when companies do, I just think it's a fun little thing, is when they include accessories with a figure if it's meant for another figure.
Mm-hmm.
This guy came with icy arms with Sub-Zero, which is just a cool thing to add. They didn't have to do that, especially if they're in the past. They've basically released figures like that as a variant. So it was really cool. I didn't have to buy another Sub-Zero to get just icy arms. They just included it here. And the typical Mortal Kombat blood effects, really fun to include. Lots of hands, different heads. And the thing I love about Storm in general is just the feel of the figure. They like to use a rubbery plastic, which I know a lot of people aren't a fan of, but I don't know what it is about. I love the feel of it. They feel super durable, and the reason why Kentaro made it over some of the other figures that came out is just really the fun factor. Compared to a lot of Storm figures, they're all fun in their own way, but I don't know, big 4-armed Catman, that how much more fun can that be? That's incredible.
So 6-arm Catman? I don't know.
Maybe, yeah. But with that, it's a lot of fun. You can have it in stoic poses or intimidating poses. I had a really fun shot of this one outside, stomping Sub-Zero. One of the most entertaining photos I've ever done. So with that, it has a special place in my heart now, but otherwise I still think it's a great figure, and it easily top 5, made it a top 3.
Are those ripped out arms articulated?
Yes, so funny enough, those are Sub-Zero's other arms, because I put the arms that came with them onto Sub-Zero, and I went, oh, I'll use these arms to do a nice little Mortal Kombat fatality with them.
But that's the kind of thing, right? Like, sometimes you get brands where the accessories are just kind of junk, or it seems like they're thrown in. But Storm seems like they really, really think out, okay, what is an accessory that we can put in with this that is relevant to this figure? It's not just it's not just a pack in to kind of put more stuff in, right? Like, severed limbs that are articulated, are a great example, or like effects that sort of relate to like either a story plot point or like an interaction that a couple characters have had, or so on and so forth. It's like, I don't have a problem with Build-A-Figures. Well, I do have a problem with Build-A-Figures, but but every once in a while, you get like Marvel Legends will do a wave, and it's like, oh, this is an Avengers wave, and we're gonna pack out a Build-A-Figure for an X-Men villain, and you're like, wait, what? Like, why? Like, what? But those seem to make perfect sense. None of this makes any sense to me. Dazatron's Diorama Llama says, Storm Collectibles, Dimitri is one of my favorite pickups from this year, hoping they get on with releasing more again. I don't know who either of those figures is.
He's behind a whole bunch of other figures, so I won't grab them. I actually just got Dimitri 2 days ago.
What property is that from?
Darkstalkers, which it's a Capcom one.
Oh, okay. So
figure's phenomenal.
It's the horror sort of one, right?
Yeah.
Vampire type thing, yeah.
Figure's phenomenal. Would have made top 5, but it came out in 2020, so I tried to stay close to. If we were doing this 2 years ago, he would have made it.
Right. And yeah, they're Dazatrons. It says Darkstalkers, so. That's the crazy thing, is that like I do the show and I explicitly say like I'll talk about all the stuff that I love to no end, and people will be like, what about this? And I'm like, I've never heard of that. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm never going to be that guy that's the encyclopedia of like all the yeah, that had this many figures and went this many years and blah blah blah, and I'm like, I don't know, man. It just doesn't, not everything sort of comes through, and I was never a video game guy, so as much as like the Mortal Kombat and the Street Fighter and like all the sort of fighting game figures seem to be all kind of coming out now, they look great, but I can't justify them because I just don't have that same affinity for those properties.
I grew up with that stuff, right? That hits me at home, like, so.
Well, I've said this before too, like my good buddy Eddie is like just losing his mind about some of these figures that are coming out, like the like in those Jada Toys Street Fighter ones too. Like he's just like he's trying to figure out where to send his money, and nobody wants to take it yet. So it's just like but anyway, next up, AI, your number 3.
All right, my number 3 is the Hiya Toys Robo Kane.
Cool.
Man, it's a wicked figure. Like a lot of like my collection and kind of the reason I got into 1/6 scale is I love film, I love movies, and like I love like the screen accuracy and the head sculpts on like the larger 1/6 scale figures, which is kind of what drew me into that. But we never got a Robocane. And I pre-ordered this guy. I've also picked up RoboCop Ed 209. They scale great together. And I mean, typically this guy, he scales with a 4-inch figure, but he's like a 6-inch scale figure. Just because of the paint, the detail, a lot of the articulation. Like he's really well articulated, man. And like all the, like I talked about it earlier on my stream, but like the wires and everything, like nothing is restricted. And he's like, he's got, it's not just silver. He has like some wash on it as well that brings out a lot of the highlights and details. And he's a beautiful figure, man. Like, the pistons move. It's just, yeah, like it's one of the figures that I opened up and was blown away with, man. Like, and he's been on my desk for, I don't know, like a few months, and I always just catch myself, even during like my own streams, I'm always kind of messing with him and articulating him, and it's yeah, I was pretty impressed by him. He's easily my number 3. Surprised he's not higher, but like I said, with a lot of my picks, there's a lot of good shit that came out this year. So yeah, it's a beautiful figure.
Is he not higher because of the scale?
What's that?
Is it not higher because of the scale, maybe? Because it's the smaller? Because I know you err on the side of like bigger.
No, because I feel like recently I've gotten into a lot of, I guess it was over COVID, because there were a lot of delays on like from like Hot Toys, sideshows, stuff like that. Out. So I started leaning more into like the 6-inch scale stuff, and then I kind of start messing around with a little bit of photography and stuff, so it's easier to like do dioramas. Like 6-inch figures are just more fun to pose, where 1/6 isn't. Like I'll find a pose I like, put them on the shelf, and I kind of leave them like that. You know what I mean? And like when guests and people come over, they're like, oh wow, that looks great, but I don't really touch them and play with them again. You know what I mean? Other than when I box them up, if I'm moving them out or selling them, right, or changing up my display or cleaning. But yeah, I've had a lot more fun with just like 6-inch scale figures, and it's been a lot of great stuff. G.I. Joe Classifieds, Ninja Turtles, all stuff that is from my era that I grew up with that I loved, and we're getting like kind of better iterations of them with better paint apps, articulation. I like my collection just over probably the last year is definitely pushed more towards 6-inch figures again, because they're where I wanted them to be when I started collecting, like back in the day when I was buying like cases of Marvel Legends. But now they're, the head sculpts, the paints, everything is, they're beautiful for that scale. We're getting a lot of good stuff. So
I hadn't seen that. That looked amazing.
Oh man, he's great, dude. Like I was, like because I got the SDCC Battle Damage exclusive 2-pack, which came with RoboCop and Ed 209. And like the 4K version of RoboCop was released this year, so I watched that, and I was just kind of on a RoboCop kick, so I grabbed that, and then this guy came up, and I was like, man, he's fantastic. He's beautiful.
Yeah, looks great.
Well, Adam glitched out.
Wow, yeah. I mean, I don't really have this many people. We're not normally showing things, so I'm just like, wait, which screen am I putting on? Do I pull up a comment? Do I like? This is hard work, man. I've had a long day. I was up early to watch the World Cup final. So, Dazzletron's Diorama Llama is saying, "Are Jada toys any good?" I've heard good things about them. They look good. My only complaint about those Street Fighter figures is that they have that weird articulation in the pin in the wrist, which to me looks clumsy, but maybe that could be sample. Maybe production won't look like that. or maybe they'll look so good and have such a good price point that people won't care anyway. But my number 3 is another big boy, a thick boy. It is Mojo, the single carded version, not the 4-pack version, which I'm pressuring Austin into buying. Did you buy it already, Austin?
Oh yeah, I bought it before I even talked to you. I linked it to you. I already bought it.
Oh, that's right. That's right. He messaged me. He's like, "Yeah, what do you think of this?" And I'm like, "It's pretty good. I mean, it's really expensive. I wouldn't buy it because it was too expensive." He's like, "Yeah, I bought it." For me, I just couldn't justify the 4-pack. I just didn't. I didn't want. And I was saying this. I think I think I said this on your show, AI, but I was mentioning this to Austin. I didn't necessarily want that X Babies Wolverine because I open everything. I don't really care about the packaging, although that's probably the best packaging I've seen all year. And then that Dazzler I didn't love. The other version of Dazzler that's already come out was pretty awesome anyway. And to me, this is the more comic book accurate deco, the sort of yellow with the kind of pink hue to it. Whereas the Spotchy one was a little more cartoon inspired to me. So when they released this, I was like, well, I'll just go ahead and add that one to my cart, and I didn't intend to buy it. But now that I've got it in my collection,
so cool.
It's so cool. My only complaint, the reason that it's not, number 2, is because I think stuff like this, where you might not be able to pick it up, but like there's no paint app at all.
Yeah.
It's just really well sculpted plastic. But a black wash on this thing would go a long, long way. And my only other complaint is that there's no articulation in his sort of tendril, apart from the sort of ball joint on the end. But the articulation in the arms, the articulation in all these little feet and stuff is fantastic. The way they've sort of designed it to have these clear little sort of, modules on the bottom that he actually sits on. He doesn't have to sit on the legs at all. So in terms of, designing a figure to look great on a shelf and be posable, not just look cool, right? Like all these legs can do whatever you want them to, because they're not supporting the weight of the figure, which to me is a stroke of genius in terms of the design. Very much recommend picking this up if you're at all an X-Men fan, or if you just like really cool, absurdly styled, action figures.
You hold them up a little closer in the face, because I mean,
the
character in general is just body horror, right? And so the body and the belly and everything, but if you look at that face and these things, I've always kind of wondered about, like Art Adams would draw this crazy detail and all these lines, and it took me a while to realize, like, wait, are those things like pulling back on his face? And it's beautifully disgusting.
They are. He's got the little sort of mechanical, like, wires that sort of keep his eyes open so he can keep watching TV, because that's the whole Mojo World thing, right? It's all for ratings. Maybe this guy should be like my logo, or my my inspiration.
Subscribe.
I hated that character as a kid because he legitimately made me feel uncomfortable. Like,
but
I just
that's
looking
what
at
was
him.
so great about
That's
it.
exactly
Yep.
I look at it now and go, it's so cool.
He was slovenly, and he was like over the top, and he was in your face, and he was just like, because the weird thing about Mojo is that he's not a villain in the classic sense. He doesn't want to, like, he's not out to like take anything over apart from ratings. He only wants, murder and death because it's good ratings. Like, it's just such a weird take on popular culture that they sort of created a villain out of that sort of mentality, right?
Like Running Man.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the evolution of that almost. And part of the reason that I got that too is because they announced like that got released sort of on the same day that they were doing their PulseCon release as the single carded one, and they announced Spiral and they announced Longshot, and I was like, well, that's me done. I got to get all of them, so I may as well get Mojo as well. I have my Longshot. I haven't opened it. I'm planning now. Don't tune in every night and sort of wait for me to be on live, but I'm planning to do like an unboxing pretty much now through Christmas, because I have so much stuff that I need to open that I think every night I'll try to do like one or two. If you're interested, hit the notification button. But the Legends, was going through the list, and the funny thing is, if I did a list of legends for 2022 a month ago, I would have had 0. Like, I didn't buy any legends this year, and I was having conversations about, like, I'm out, I'm done with legends. You know, I think I've checked all the boxes. All the teams that I want have been represented. Pretty much all the figures that I want have been represented. You know, there's a few odd ones here and there. I'm not kidding. I even said in multiple conversations, Austin, we might have had this conversation like 2 weeks before they all got revealed. I was like, the only way that I'm going to get back into Marvel Legends is if they do the blue and yellow X-Men from Uncanny X-Men 275. And if they do any Generation X figures, I think I could probably get into that. Because Austin, we were sort of talking about we'd buy more Age of Apocalypse or more of the House of X stuff. And I was like, we'll probably get that at some point. But those, like, blue and yellow X-Men and Generation X, I was like, those could definitely bring me back in. But I don't think we'll see them. And I was thinking too, like, we'll see one, like we'll see one of the characters, and I can kind of build it out over the next 3 or 5 years because that's their release schedule. And then that leak list came out, and I was like, oh, we're getting Wolverine on a card, and then we're getting 2 3-packs. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
Boom,
like,
boom, boom, done.
Like, the addict kicks back in, and you're just like, I thought I kicked that. I thought I'd moved on to other habits, other problems. I've created other problems for myself in the meantime because Marvel Legends had kind of gone away. And now it's back in a big way. And I got to look at other lines and I'm like, hey, what am I not going to buy as much of next year? Because that's just what's released now. I mean, if they're going to do X-Men all year, I'm hooped.
What else is coming? Yeah. Even just, I want to point out the belly. You were talking about the pink undertones. I love how they just kind of put that right on that sort of underfold.
Yeah.
And it's
I don't know why, but it just reminds me of like, is he like urinating and he's stained down there or what? But but that again, that's keeping in line with look at where the shading is. Like
he's
down
just
there.
fat. Friction, man. He's fat.
I think it's irritation from like.
Exactly. He's got sores. Yeah, he's got sores underneath.
And it's kind of on every piece. Like, you don't see it on every piece. That was the thing when I saw this, like the render of this, I was like, I mean, it's okay. But then when you get it, like it's on his shoulders, it's sort of on his jowl, it's under his sort of man boob there. Is he a man? I don't know. But it's on his hands as well. Like it's all throughout the figure, and it's very, very subtle, but it looks absolutely fantastic, and it really adds a dimension to the figure that otherwise I think it wouldn't have if it didn't have that.
We'll have to compare mojos when I get mine.
Yeah, for sure. We'll do a Mojo comparison review video.
That's right.
Point of order, you skipped me, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, did I? Oh,
yeah.
While you were glitching out.
That's my bad. Maybe that was the other thing. I was like, wait, who's up next? I guess I was.
Mojo.
It's all good. It's all good. But yeah, let's go back to the
absolutely
the cam just because again I've got it set up. So I guess Austin, you're gonna have to school me here because
all right.
So this is and it's a 2-pack, so I don't know. Does that count?
Oh, you've got this one, Austin.
Figures?
Oh, I do.
I got her and Gilius at the same time. I was just like, dragons.
Yeah.
Totally fit, and I'll reveal that in a second. But in my head, she was smaller. I hadn't, you mentioned the sort of softer plastic, and it is a little awkward depending on how you move her because different body parts kind of move independently. But but it's really amazing, and I'm actually a little bit like I'm not like a prude or anything, but there's something about this like 80s, like she's a barbarian, but she's got an impeccable, well-trimmed bikini on going on. It's just like a little. It feels a little gratuitous, or a lot gratuitous, but I mean the muscles. I'm just like really intrigued.
So you're saying it's a product of the 80s?
It is absolutely a product of the 80s, like I was, and it. I was scared then, and I'm still a little scared and intimidated now. But yeah, she's fantastic. Even that hair, like who could pull that hair off? But it works. That amazing mega mullet kind of thing going on. And then of course there is a dragon, but mine, and I'm gonna this here, and I'm asking for Austin's help because I'll tell you what the problem is. The tail keeps coming off.
Yeah. It's funny. This figure,
Grr.
the only reason why she didn't make top 5 was because of that dragon tail. Like, it's actually pretty frustrating that the moment it's articulated, but the moment you move it, it just pops off.
Yep.
So, is it an issue of like the joint just being too loose?
Well, it's awkward because it's a dumbbell, and so sometimes when you're pushing it in, it moves, and you're not getting it. It's all kinds of weird, and it does pop out when you move it. So I don't know. Still,
could you add like clear nail polish to the ball joint?
Yeah,
so it's a little more sturdy in there, so it doesn't pop out.
I think from what I can tell, the issue is just there's too much plastic, I guess you could say. I mean, so basically,
right around here,
that's very concaved. And it clicks into a big lump of plastic.
Right.
So
the issue is that it actually forces itself out of the joint.
Exactly. So like no amount of nail polish is going to do anything.
Fair enough. Could you heat it up then put it on and kind of cool it so it expands a little more? Maybe.
Well, I think
so. That's go ahead.
It'll go on, right? But it won't stay on because as soon as it gets moved or adjusted, it just pops off. It's just engineered kind of bad.
Yeah.
From the sounds of it.
But not to take away bigger. I mean, like, it's still phenomenal. Like
yeah, hey, it made him in my number 2. But again, I go ahead.
I was gonna say there's some SH figure art stuff that have that problem with the faceplate, where when you put the figure's head down, it actually puts pressure on the faceplate, and the face pops off. And you're kind of like, okay, so the articulation for this head sucks because I can't make him look down without his face coming off, which seems like an oversight. But Dazatron's, this name gets me every time. Dazatron's Diorama Llama says, "What is this figure?"
He goes by Daz. Daz will work.
Okay.
This is, sorry, I didn't say. This is Tyrus Flair from Golden Axe, which was
Golden Axe. Yes,
I'm a older person, so I was like a NES kind of person, and then the Genesis came out, and we were all about it. And this was one of the games.
3 or 4 years old when I was playing this game.
And did you have an awakening when you saw Tyrus Flair?
Like, look at those pixels! Oh my
god! Sorry, it's not the most. It's kind of like,
these 16 bits. Oh my!
No, for me, like this was a coin op, and me and my friends used to into it and play it at like the 7-Eleven or whatever the closest convenience store that had it, because it had like multiplayer and. We were just in there dumping coins, playing when we were like 8, 9 years old, right?
Dazax, is this a Storm figure? Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
I did a poor job of introducing that, Daz. My bad. But yes, absolutely. This is Storm Collectibles. It does have that sort of like soft rubbery feel, and it does have some of these issues where you see kind of some of these joints, but I love this figure, and the size of it was really also what took me, as I was saying earlier, when I first saw the stations or whatever. She looked really kind of thin and tiny, but this is a tall. We talked about earlier. I mean, she actually towers over him.
So she's close to 8 inches, then, hey?
Yeah. She's like the same. She's a little taller than some of the Mythic Legion's male figures. She's taller than all the females.
Yeah, here's
collectibles figures are a little bit larger in general, though, right?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they're. I think somebody referred to them
like
as a
110
scale.
Yeah.
That's always tough, right? Because when you're mixing lines, you're like, a brand will say, "Oh, this is 6-inch scale," or they'll say it's 112 scale, or they'll say it's 110 scale, or it's 7-inch scale. And as much as like in my head, they're all the same scale, right? They're all the same size, and like certain lines, certain figures will fit in with other lines because you can kind of go, well, I mean, it's not from that line, and it, you can headcanon it sort of into a spot where it makes sense. And then other times, like you put this like next to a Black Series figure, and you're like, yeah, I don't know. This now like she'd be the equivalent of like 2 feet taller, and they don't always work. The nice thing about her is that Mythic Legions tends to be probably like a 6.5 inch scale. Like it's kind of they're taller than most 6-inch scaled figures. And the Masterverse is probably a 7-inch scale. So, and like, Brick, this will fit with the AWOC stuff, the Animal Warriors of the Kingdom stuff.
And like Austin knows, when you're taking photos, you can use forced perspective too, right?
Yeah.
So you can kind of offset those larger scales with smaller scales too, right?
And I find with some characters, it doesn't even really matter. With a character like Tyrus Flare, you go, okay, 80s barbarian princess.
Yeah,
she can tower over everyone for all I care.
Yeah, that's sort of how I do it on my shelf too. We've got like people that are just huge, and she eats a lot of, I don't know, she eats a lot of corn and protein, and she's big.
Yeah, she's from that country across the plain where everybody's just taller, like
exactly.
You kind of make that stuff up as you go along, because why not? Because it's your toys. You can do whatever you want. There's no rules.
Make your own canon.
And I mean, like, people, I get it, but they're going to be frustrated with the reality of that. And then along comes a dragon, and you're like, oh wait, there's a dragon. What am I tripping on the height of this person?
Anybody want to get that
one? Anyway, the tail, that does suck. But again, I also just kind of want to take a look. Like, this is no slouch in terms of
it looks
the sculpt on this, and
yeah,
the other movement and the arms. I dig it.
The red one's just as good.
Yeah. And it's a shame about this, which is odd, because they did the red one, and then they started selling. You could buy them separately. There's a black colored one, another one. So it is odd. I don't know if they all have this problem, but there's a lot of these out there. So
yeah, I wonder if that's like a production run thing, or maybe it can get corrected for future releases, or future, if they reprint the, if they make, wave. What am I thinking? Like, if they re-release it, sort of thing, right? Like, maybe they'll figure it out. But Austin, you said you have the red one as well.
Yeah. So
and the tail have the same problem.
Same problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
Axe Battler, who's like the main human character, he came with Red Dragon, and same thing. Just you move it a little too much, it just pops off.
Yes, it is cold. It is. All right. That's number 3. So we are already on to number 2s. And Austin, I believe, if I'm not glitching out, that you are up.
I am. All right. Number 2 and number 1 was actually a bit of a toss-up. But I said did this, so we're back to Mezco. My number 2 is the Rumble Society Atticus Doom.
The more I see this, the more I wish I got it.
It is. For anything soft goods, a lot of people are anti-soft goods, and I totally understand why people are like that. No. But they nailed this figure. I can't think of any figure Mezco's done that's more perfect than this, because I mean, as good as that Wolverine figure I mentioned is, this one, mind you, Mezco exclusive, so you got to go get it through their site, but it retailed at $95 American, which is very expensive, especially to get it shipped to Canada. But overall, that's not a bad price point for the quality of what you're getting. But the other thing they did, so the head that he has on, and the green effect on his hand, they didn't even come with this figure. They released a accessory pack, but you could buy separately. Now, a lot of people might complain, like, oh, I don't want to buy an accessory pack, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? You don't have to. Cool. Right?
Yeah, but...
No.
I know there's a big debate. But I love the fact it's like you can get the figure as is and still comes with tons of accessories and be happy with it. Or you have the option to get an accessory pack. You didn't have to if you don't want to. That I love that as an option, as opposed to being forced to buy everything. But again, I love the figure so much. I said, screw it. I'm buying the accessory pack. It comes with so much cool stuff. I have all the stuff in a bag right beside me. I'm not going to pull it all out, but it comes with really cool effects, alternate heads. He has a Cthulhu head. He comes with this really cool effect where you can put like a little portal looking thing on his wrist, have another portal on a peg, and his hand is coming out of it. It looks incredible.
Cool. That's cool.
His trench coat is wired, so you can do some incredible posing. The articulation on it is fantastic. I can ramble for a very long time about this figure. But the thing that I find incredible is it's their IP. It's their intellectual property. This isn't a G.I. Joe character that they've made. This isn't a Marvel character that they made. They just went, this is our design. We're going all out. And they nailed it. It is so good. Only downside is Mezco exclusive, limited release, so you can't just go buy one after seeing this video. It's just... But if you can get your hands on this, or on the new one that they
on the new redeco that came out.
They did a redeco that's... Some are going to argue is even better because it comes with more, or at least different or cooler stuff. If you can get your hands on one, I highly, highly recommend it. And like, you don't even have to go the full Rumble Society route. If you can just get this figure, you'll be very, very happy with it.
And Trevor has finally been released from his duties, watching some other, or being involved in another show, that he can now tune into this. We've just started. Austin's just done his number 2 of the year, and so we're doing the last 2 for the year. You can always catch it in the replay, Trev. Yeah, that was, sorry. I don't know how people do that and make it sound like
natural,
like it's not just
like a passive aggressive attack.
Yeah.
Oh, one other little detail I wanted to point out, I just thought was super cool. The little trench coat belt, even that's wired in.
It's wired. Oh man, yeah,
so good.
Like
it's so cool.
It's
when
the
people
second
don't
time
like
I've
soft
seen him
goods,
pop up in someone's top 5, man, and
I mean, I'll be real. The only reason that isn't is because I'm staying away from Mezco just for a number of reasons. But any of those, that would be like right up there. I love those from afar. I wish, just like you said, the magic sort of effects.
Yeah.
The way they design that, it's super dynamic, right?
Yeah.
You have to put that wire in that belt and in that coat. It all just kind of works together, and I love they put that thought into it. It's awesome.
I think too, like anybody that talks about like, oh, I don't like soft goods, I'm like, no, what you don't like is cheap soft goods. Because once you have soft goods in hand that kind of do what you want them to do, my goodness, it is game changing. That's been sort of a recent thing with Mythic Legions moving to a lot more soft goods, and I get, so the argument there is a little bit that like some of the customizer guys want the plastic piece because they can customize it. But the soft goods, man, I mean, the stuff that CJ's doing for Mythic Legions, and that he's done for like with Mythic Legions for some of the Super 7 stuff, like he's not on my list, but like the Super 7 Shredder, you put the plastic cape on him and it's like, that's a cool toy. You put the wired cape on him and you're like, this takes this to another level because it's now, you can pose the clothing. Come on. Like that's, we talk about like how we want better articulation in our figures. Like what about their capes and jackets and cloaks, and like it just, your figure looks so dynamic on a shelf with like with
even
his belt,
just
his
standing him
belt
straight.
Yeah,
you put boom. Suddenly there's like an even more powerful magic effect going on because his coat is awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe people are responding to this, and like,
well, that's what I mean.
Not horrible.
It gives it a more dynamic look on your shelf, man. It looks like it's a more natural flow. It just looks better. It looks nicer, right?
It looks great.
Else to articulate.
And it just, I mean, and the value add to like to the look, right, of a figure when you put soft goods on it. When it's cheap ones, it doesn't always add, but when it's like good, well designed, stitched, wired on and on, absolutely adds so much. That's a good point, Daz. They look like stop motion figures. Yeah.
One
absolutely.
final thing I'll add, just from a toy photographer perspective, is having that much different stuff and posability is huge. That like I can take off the top of my head 4 very distinctly different pictures of that figure, and he will look like a totally different character in every single one.
Yeah. Without changing, I know what you mean. Absolutely.
And the other head, you mentioned it, but the other head that comes with is also incredible.
Oh, it's amazing. I don't mean to ramble on my number 2 here, but
that was my invitation.
Bag right here.
That was my, hey, can we see that?
That's the lead. That's the lead in.
Is the Cthulhu head.
Man. And a lot of people have tried to create that, but I love you look at it from different angles. There's this big protrusion in the front that just really makes it work.
And like since I got the accessory pack, like this is the original head it came with. And instead of he normally has like a little turban on, but underneath is a brain. Like it's wild.
Fantastic, man.
Talking about it now, I'm like, oh man, should have that been in my number 1? Again, number 1, number 2 were a toss up.
That's the thing. Like when I was going through mine, I was like, oh man, does the moose go higher? Does it go lower? Is Mojo number 5 because it wasn't on my because I didn't want it right away and I got it as like an afterthought? Like how do you set the metrics? So I that's the other thing is like I said to AI on Friday 2 days ago, right? I said I don't know that my 5 is going to be the same come Sunday, but and there was things on my shelf. Like I said on, I think I said this on Friday, like because I really love Gundam model kits. I'm also doing like the Gundam Universe figures, and there's well, we can get honorable mention. I'll mention this. Well, no, I'll just say it now.
That could be a whole nother list.
Well, that's the thing. Like I could have done a top 5, Gundam model kits that I got this year, because that's a weird thing too, because they re-release them all the time. But like the Gundam Universe figures are great representations in sort of toy form of really great designs, but the figures themselves are not that great. So there's sort of, is it the design? Is it the articulation? Is it and AI, you mentioned this, like, is it on your desk all the time and it's the figure that you reach for the most? Like there's no rules. And like you said, Austin, your number 2 today could be number 5 tomorrow. It could be number 1 the next day. It's like, it's fluid. And when you mentioned too, like, is it because it's a new thing with your number 5? I looked at mine and I was like, oh yeah, all of these are within the last couple months. Now, is that a result of like newness? And bias. But I did actually kind of think about that too. And that was when it, like, after Friday, I actually went through and I was like, okay, what actually came out in 2022? And kind of did a full rundown and like what figures, because there was some 2021 stuff that I was like, oh, this could have made my list. It might still, if I was like just top 5 in my collection.
Yeah.
So it's different, and it's, that's the fun of it. Like, and I was on Toy Connections yesterday with Ken and a couple other guys, Dole and Matt Hatter, actually.
Matt Hatter. It was a good stream, but
it was fun, man.
I watched it because I was sleeping, so I watched it while I was at work last night.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was great, man.
But we were talking about toy regrets, and there was just like so many things about my top 5 were sort of starting to factor into my thinking too, like. And that recency bias, right, was sort of one where it's sort of like, did I buy anything out of FOMO? Like, was Mojo out of FOMO, or was it, so you just, that's, but
Mojo FOMO.
These are the top 5 that we physically have. And one of the things we were talking about on that is like, so often we get hung up on what we missed or what we don't have, or what, we're always waiting for that next one. And this is just rating your figures, like picking your top 5 is a great exercise in kind of realizing how much cool stuff you have and how hard it is to pick the top 5.
Oh yeah, and it came up in conversation with us, and it came up on the Toy Connects stream too, where it's you get entrapped in the next hotness instead of just enjoying what you already have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like that next figure that comes in might make my top 5 list, but there's so much good stuff already. You know what I mean? And where do you factor that in? Like, we're getting to the end of the year here, and I still got a couple packages that are in transit that'll show up before the new year. So will those come in and factor in? You know what I mean?
Just a quick shout out because I talked about it because I love them so much, and because I'm in control of the board, I get to pick what goes up. Dad says Gundam are great kits, look awesome but feel cheap to me. You're buying the cheap kits, my friend. There are kits that feel amazing in hand, and there's kits that feel super, super cheap. If you want to get a super cheap and actually really good kit in hand, go pick up one of the entry grade kits. They've done the entry grade kit 78-2, which is like the OG Grandpa Gundam. They did the new Gundam, and they've done the Strike Gundam from Gundam Seed. All of those feel amazing. They take no time at all to build and put together. If you've never built a Gundam kit, those are the ones that I'm recommending to everybody. Because honestly, in Canada, you get them for like $12 to $15. I think in the States, they're like $10 to $12. And they feel awesome. The joints are nice and tight. They're really quick and easy to put together. Color separation of the pieces is phenomenal. Yeah, those are the kits that I've been sort of telling people to go and check out because they're amazing and really inexpensive, and it gives you a really good feel of like how the kits are to put together, and it's a great way to sort of check whether or not you'd like to get something more expensive. But they're definitely worth the money. And those entry grade kits are like action figures, like they're nice and tight and the joints move really well. So they'll you could even just substitute it as a mech. But they're a little on the small side, so you'd probably like a 4-inch scale kind of figure. But anyway, on and on. Trevor says, just got Mafex Classic Spider-Man and Mezco Constantine and Theo Sodcutter. All very cool figures right under the 2022 wire. I watched you open 2 out of those 3, I think. If it wasn't all 3, I know that you did the Mafex Spider-Man and the Theo Sodcutter with Kevin on Toying Around. Mike Hex says Classic Spidey is my number 1. When we get to our number 1s, that's when I'm going to ask everybody and anybody that's in the chat, please post what your number 1 is, because we will sort of discuss what you guys have as your number 1s. That will also play into the contest giveaway, the details of which will be coming up at the end of the show.
See you.
I see you. But getting back to our lists, number 2, where are we? Spotlight layout, or that's what it says on mine. AI, your number 2 figure of 2022.
Well, it's a bit of a cheat, but I feel they complement each other perfectly. So,
and I feel this is well within the rules. I will allow this, and I already know what it is.
It is the NECA Last Ronin figures, man. I have most of like the cartoon and movie stuff, but these guys, man, like right out of the package, I was most impressed with. Like the articulation's all solid. I wasn't scared. Like I didn't have to heat anything up. Like I wasn't scared anything was gonna break. The paint apps, the accessories that they come with, like they're fantastic, man. Like he's just, if you read the comic, they're like perfect interpretations of the characters, man, and they go so well together on the shelf. It's the same character, right? You just get shirtless and not shirtless, but that's you get the details. You see the shell on the shirtless one, where on the jacketed one you don't see it, right? But they're beautiful figures, man. They look great on the shelf. I had a lot of fun again just messing with this guy, taking different photos of him and posting them on Instagram. But yeah, he's, you know, even like the paint and detail on the accessories is fantastic, and you get like metal chains. He even has like some soft goods. He has like a string that holds on his bandolier. Yeah, and he has almost like a G.I. Joe Classified where he has a spot for almost every accessory on his, you know, on his belt, on his back. But yeah, they're beautiful, man. Like, I was really impressed with them. I hadn't read the comic, and these were already incoming. I got them from AliExpress early. So I ordered the hardback comic that was on Amazon on sale for like $23 or something. So I got to read that before the figures showed up, and it's just, yeah, the story is great, the art's great, and, you know, kind of the fall of the turtles and the last remaining one, and I just think the figures are kind of a perfect interpretation of them. And yeah, I was blown away, and I really enjoy them. I think they look great. It was probably my favorite thing that came out from NECA this year, which is kind of where I went. I tried to stick with a figure of like each thing that I collect instead of having it be all G.I. Joe Classified or all, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sticking with one type of figure of, you know, kind of that line that I enjoyed the most, and that's like NECA. It's the best thing they've done in years. And I kind of feel like a lot of the companies, and it kind of sucks because they're all hitting us all at once right now at the end of the year, but we're getting like the best of what they've been doing and what they've kind of been doing for years, right? And I don't know, it's kind of a weird place to be collecting, because I feel like things aren't selling like they used to, but they're kind of coming out with, you know, the best of what they've done, right?
That brings up a good question though too, right? Like, we have this idea of like recency bias, but is it a bias, or does stuff just keep getting better? Are they building on, you know, their figures every time? Like, we've said, you know, Mezco keeps getting better, NECA keeps getting better, the classified figures keep getting better, Mythic Legions keep getting better. Like,
and I think that comes. I think it's fan feedback, man. I think they're actually listening. They're listening to us, you know, on TikTok. They're listening to us on Facebook and Instagram. They're, you know what I mean? Like, they have people that work there and work the social media aspect, so they know what people are saying about these products that they're putting out, right? And you do see improvements. So it is like, even if you don't think they're listening to us, they are, man. There is somebody in behind the scenes that's, you know, listening to the feedback, right? And it seems to be getting to the right people in most respects, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
We do see the improvements.
Mike Hex said, I jumped on that after being reawakened to TMNT by Dan Who and Super Turk 5000. I was reawakened to Ninja Turtles as well, because a very good friend of mine, Mike from eCollectibles, is a massive TMNT guy, and he's sort of always talking about it. And I will talk more about it in my most anticipated of 2023 when I do that video in a couple weeks. But that Mecha Leo from Heat Boys, when that came out, I was like, all right, I'm back into Turtles, because that thing looks so good. And then as a result, I was like, and I'm going to pick up, you know, the Last Ronin comic. So I was the opposite of you, Aaron. Like, I got the Last Ronin, read it, incredible story. Then I saw those. I'd seen, you know, the I prefer to call them topped and topless versions of that Last Ronin. And I was like, okay, well, I've read the comic and I absolutely loved it. And I was like holding out. And then they announced that they're doing more of the Turtles from that comic. And I was like, okay, I think I need to add those to my list. So they may be on my 2023 list, but then technically they didn't. Well, but Mike's not getting them till 2023. So I guess technically that'll still satisfy the rules for me. The rules, I don't know, is it rules? I mean, you change them, you adjust them.
Man, at the end of the day, it's your show. It's like when I do my show, I can make the rules whatever the hell I want, man.
And I think you're right. I think it's both recency bias. I think it's kind of all the above, because definitely I think as we move forward, even if they aren't necessarily listening to us, which I agree with you, they 100% are, but just production, you know, things get better. They learn a couple of different things, and you know, I take a look at some of the toys that came out like a couple years ago to now, and it's amazing what's happening. And I think they're all kind of pushing each other in many ways, because we're talking about like, oh, there's only so much space. There's there's only so many lines. Now we've got multiple producers of the same toy lines trying to squeeze in space. Oh, these are the ones based on the old Playmates. These are the ones based on the card. This is the new comic. Yep. And at the end of the day, it's just getting ratcheted up. And I look at those that you just shared. I'm just like, those are amazing. But I do have to. I live through you. That's what I say. I live through you.
Space and money, right? Like we all, like none of us can collect everything because it's just not. I mean, even if you had all the money in the world, it wouldn't be reasonable to have all the figures that are coming out right now. Greg says Fury Toy Spring, not Leo, is hitting now too. Can't wait. I've heard people that have had that in hand saying that that's their favorite figure of 2022. So that's, recency bias or not. I mean, I do think that like we are, and to reference my good buddy Eddie again, every time a new toy comes in, his comment is golden age. This is the golden age of toys. If you can think of it, if it's a property from your childhood, whatever, it's out there, or it's coming, or it's announced, or you've heard a rumor that NECA's got it, or Storm's doing it, or Mezco might release it. So yeah, absolutely, just so much, like too much good stuff, and that's why these are fun, because I don't have any Mezco stuff, but it's on multiple lists, so it's pretty fun. Getting back into the lists, I won't skip you this time, Brick. You want the display screen there?
Yeah, sure. So on that note, the idea of the golden age, and you can anything from your childhood you can get. On top of that, I mean, like what random video game, right? On top of that, we're getting concept art from our right. Like that's where we're at right now. And then on top of that, if it's not something that you loved, if it was like in your brain.
Oh yeah, D20 Wolves.
Oh yeah.
We're still getting it. Like it's like, okay, this wasn't something you played with before, but we know you want it. And
exactly.
And it's not like when I was a kid and I wanted a big wolf or whatever. Yeah, there was something, but no one was spending the amount of time and to produce something like this. And I was really I was blown away when I got this thing, because again, I had limited expectations, but I was like, oh, that seems like a good idea. And as I started putting this thing together and saw everything that it comes with, and you can kind of take things apart and all these different points of articulation, and there are some issues with it, but I had such a good experience with this toy, opening it, playing with it. It really reminded me of that. Like, oh yeah, this is why I collect toys and play with toys. And I am such a visual nerd and aesthetic kind of snob. And I just love the way this looks. It's a little bit on the cartoony side, but I love it. And the amount of paint. There's this thing here, and it's in the box. But again, they're like, yeah, no, you shouldn't have to suffer if you don't want to put that awesome little helmet they have. So they had a little plug in there.
Yeah, right.
Kind of thought of everything with this thing, and it works great with all sorts of figures, right? And you're probably sensing a theme in my top, but yeah, man, I'm a sucker for steeds, and I'm a sucker for variety on my shelf. I grew up with.
I think we have that in common. Like, so for me as a kid, I always had tons of figures, and I didn't have the mounts or the vehicles or whatever. So now, as an adult, when my parents can't tell me like no, and because, I've built a space just for my toys. Now we're all in space danger, but we make room where we need to. So like I'm the same way. Like I have, whenever Mythic Legions does a horse, I get two. Because one's great, but isn't two better? And isn't it more fun to get like more characters on mounts? Like I'm right there with you. That it just adds so much more fun to displays to have, because it adds height and it adds depth and it adds bulk and so on and so forth. But then small animals as well. Crocmaster that came with Fiona. Snake Eyes. With Timber and Snake Eyes with Timber version 2. Well, there's version 2. AI's got version 2 right there. All the stuff that we're getting is just so good. The Panther that came with the D&D Hasbro Pulse exclusive, whatever. I bought that D&D 2-pack to get that Panther. He has a name. I don't know what the name is.
Forget the name. It's just cat.
And there's only so much to go over. But
I think it's Guinevere, but I may be pronouncing that wrong. But anyway.
But even just the unboxing of this, like the quality of everything, it's just sort of like they don't have to do this, and it's ultimately not based on a property. They're not trying to live up to anything, but they're trying to capture your attention with this cool sculpt. And there's a boar that didn't quite make it to my house in 2023, so he's probably going to be a contender for 2023.
Yeah.
And again, it just works with a lot of my favorite toy lines, and so critters and beasts for sure. Oz, I love them.
I'm right there too. That's my Mythic Legions, Xylona's Flock. Give me the critters. Give me the woodland creatures. I'm there for all of it, because that's right in my wheelhouse for sure.
Right. And then where else are you gonna have a giant wolf being eaten by a Tyrannosaurus Rex while being burned by a blue dragon? Come on. Good times. Golden age indeed.
Greg said, took the spare head, blue tacked it on, instant Orthrus from Greek myth. So yeah, you can this thing. You can kind of take all these parts and customize and so on. Ostradamus says, I want Crocmaster for Fiona alone. Yeah, I want them. I want them to do like a accessory pack at some point where they just release different decos of all the animals. So once we get a couple more in the line, I would love them to do like a Pulse exclusive or like a fan channel exclusive of like a different color variation of the crocodile, a different color variation of Timber, a different color variation of Freedom from Spirit and Freedom. And maybe by then we'll have another dog or something like that. And I would buy that in a heartbeat, because that would check so many boxes for me. Dash says this like a Ray Harryhausen movie right there, Brick. Yeah, absolutely.
We need Goro over there from Austin, and perfect. Done. Harryhausen is back.
Now on I'll glitch here for a second. There we go. Number 2 for me, it does, it's not a mount, but it does still have an animal companion. So Spirit from the G.I. Joe Classified line with his trusty companion Freedom. This to me was just like, this is everything I want in the Classified line. It's updated in all the right ways, to not make him such a racist representation. But they've improved on it in terms of some of the detail. Having Freedom have the alternate wing, so that you can have the spread eagle wings, if you will, versus the folded wings. And just like the detail, the design work, the sculpting, just phenomenal. A favorite, one of my favorite characters as a kid. And apart from pinned joints, which doesn't bother me as somebody that plays with toys and doesn't tend to nitpick, maybe as much as I should. Just a phenomenal figure, just absolutely stunning, and great color palette. So it adds, a nice pop of color to my G.I. Joe Classified shelf, which has a lot of, darker colors. So there's a vibrancy to this as well, which, at first glance, you don't necessarily realize that, like, you kind of like powder blue and tan is not, striking, but it is, when he's between, Duke and Stalker or something like that. Right. So, just absolutely love this figure. Very, very happy with it. But again, like my selections in a lot of ways were sort of representations of the lines that I absolutely love. Mythic Legions is one that I love every figure that I get. Alder made the list. You could have substituted one of 20 figures in that spot, and it still would have felt right. It still would have felt like the right choice. Classified too, like Spirit was obvious, but like the Bat could have been the Alley Viper, or it could have been, one of 10 other figures. We basically got, I think, 32 figures from classified this year. So like picking a top five classified is not easy. We're actually in the Canadian classified group, Northern Outpost. We're doing a bracket of like favorite figure of the year or sort of best figure of the year. And there's going to be some head-to-head matchups that people are going to like be angry about because they're going to have to pick between two of their favorite figures. It happened last year, and I know it's going to happen this year that somebody's going to be like, why did you match these up together? And I'm like, that's the way the bracket works, man. That's how somebody has to move on and somebody has to lose. So it's tough, and it's all in good fun. You don't have to get rid of the figures that don't win. That they can go on your shelf. You don't have to bin them just because they're not the figure of the year based on the 100 people that vote in our poll. But yeah, they're just absolutely phenomenal. Greg said that Spirit is in my top 5 as well. He says he also moves so well. Mike Heck said, yes, I didn't even notice the pistol was carved. That won me over. So yes, I can get it out. It's not going to show up on the camera, but for the sake of
losers get melted.
It's not going to show up, but this isn't just like the same sidearm that the other figures came. I'm trying to get it to hit the light. There's like an eagle wing in the design of the pistol, and he's got his dagger too that has like an eagle head on it. Like it's bonkers. Like
I own that figure. I own that figure, and I never even noticed. So I'm gonna have to go take another look at it.
So here's a sign that we buy too many toys.
Yeah,
we don't take the time.
Cool. Go on the shelf. Never see it again.
And that's the thing. He's on my top 10, and I never freaking noticed that either.
Oh, there you go.
There was one last year where somebody was like, "Here's a design feature that I really love," and everybody was like, "Wait, what?"
But it's on my list for all the same reasons you said it was, right? It's a fantastic representation of the character, the colors. He stands out on the shelf where a lot of the Joes are pretty drab, and he just kind of pops, right?
Yeah, he looks fantastic. The color they ended up so it is that light blue. It's darker than the original. And the combination is really cool, and his face is amazing. The sculpt detail on that. A lot of the classified heads have been just amazing, and I'm super jealous that they don't hire those folks over at Mattel. But it's amazing stuff. I love that figure.
Mike Hex recommended that the losers in the bracket get melted. Yes, you start the year, you start the year-end review with 32 figures, and at the end you have a pile of melted plastic and one figure. Greg mentioned that the pistol is properly scaled as well. A couple of the 1911s were too small. Mike Hex said, my only gripe with Spirit is the rifle gets pegged from trigger and is kind of awkward. Keep your muzzle out of the dirt. Yes, the way that it pegs onto the backpack, I just never peg mine onto the backpack because I think it looks weird the way you have to peg it on. But mine always carries his rifle in his hand, and if it's not in his hand, it's because I've got him posed with Storm Shadow or something, right? So but it's always right there. Like it never goes in the parts bin. It never goes in the fodder bin, regardless of sort of how I've got him posed in the moment. I guess we're down to number ones. This is big. This is big. Number ones. This is where it gets interesting, because this is where it gets to like, oh, that's, you start seeing people's patterns, and you see, okay, well, you're into this line. How come this one didn't come up? But we will. I think we're pretty good. I think nobody is going to yuck anybody's yum. So on that note, Austin, what is your number one figure of 2022?
My number one figure of 2022 is by Sentinel Toys, and it is the Into the Spider-Verse Peter B. Parker Spider-Man.
Yep.
This figure, it's fun. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, when I look at toys and it turns into, well, what's more important, articulation or posability? Blah, blah, blah. Number one thing, is it fun?
Mm-hmm.
This figure
Keep it
is
fun.
fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's the fate. Obviously, it's based on the animated movie, so like it's not for everyone. Like they can't just squeeze it into their MCU collection or comic book collection because it looks so drastically different. But I mean, like again, I have a pretty crappy webcam, so it won't really pick up. But the facial expressions and like the removable glasses that actually like properly
so
sit
good.
on his face is just incredible. And one of the things they did with this figure, because I mean, spoiler alert, but the movie's been out for years, so sorry.
And the next one's coming out.
Yes, the next one's coming out, so I'm excited for even more figures.
And I have no idea
a lot more figures. Let's be real.
One thing, and I've never seen any action figure ever, like period, ever do this, but he has a swappable stomach, abdomen. Like it's swappable, where you can put on like this
The
one,
bad
like
one.
it has a little bit of a gut on him.
The fat Peter.
Yeah, and then you can put on the skinny abdomen. And
Wait, what is that one?
this is actually the gut. You can actually it's not a huge gut, but you can see there's a little bit of a bump there.
Yeah, okay.
Because he looks dad bod Superman or Spider-Man, sorry.
Yeah, it's dad bod, right? He's not fat.
Yeah.
He's just a little chunky. But and then they include the younger Peter Parker head from like the start of the movie, and you can have two different characters made from this figure, which I mean is a good reason to buy two. My only gripe with it, and even then the gripe wasn't enough to knock it down the list, was it didn't come with the soft goods or a jacket or anything, because he wore that quite a bit in the movie. But honestly, I bought third party ones, and the figure is
Toys had them, right?
I actually a few of them did, but this one actually I just got from AliExpress.
Okay.
And I was actually kind of going, it's cheap, whatever. It's surprisingly good. Like, again, this isn't part of the figure, but this one has wires and stuff in it too. So it's
there you go.
Same thing with got some sweatpants, came with the set. But again, even without that stuff, this figure is incredible. Comes with tons of accessories, comes with this really big, bulky stand, which some people don't like because it's so big, but it can hold the figure very well. All these different heads, all these different hands, and even just these really weird things. Like, again, it won't pick up on the camera, but it just works with the animated style. There's an indent in the back of his thighs here. And on a regular figure, that might look strange, but on an animated figure, it's seamless. And with that, you can fully bend
all the
leg.
way.
Yeah, it's just it's little things like that that just make me go, wow, it's so cool. Plus I got the deluxe version, so I have a huge gargoyle head that goes with it. He can sit on it. He comes with a newspaper, so you can have him pose drinking coffee and reading the newspaper. It again, but compared to Atticus Doom, it's a toss-up.
Yeah.
But like either one could be number one. I might change my mind after this show, but again, now I'm talking about this one, going like, nah, this is still number one. But the nice thing, in comparison to Atticus Doom, is Sentinel reissues. There is a reissue up for pre-order right now on a whole bunch of different sites. And you can even find, at least in Canada, you can find Sentinels sometimes in GameStop. You know, they have the Penny Parker and Spider robot from the same movie, same line.
Yeah, and I got my Miles from there, which I
got my Miles from there too.
Yeah.
So, and that was another huge factor for me at number one, because one thing that I always think about when making a top 5 list is it can't make top 5 if you don't have it. So, like, it won't make top 5 if you can't get it.
Yeah.
This figure you can actively get. You can pre-order it still, and it's incredible.
The exact same one? Do they?
Exact same one. I mean, if there was any issues with it, I'm sure they fixed them, but I can't tell you of any issues. So, this one, and just playing of it right now is, God, it's so much fun. I love
Are
this.
there other heads on that, Austin?
Yeah, I don't have them on hand. They're
Okay.
in a bag and a tote,
Yeah.
but he has 3 different four
He's got
different
the
heads?
mask, the half mask.
No,
Okay.
no half
That's
mask.
what I'm wondering.
He doesn't have the half
He doesn't
mask.
have the one like the one with the mask, not
No.
half mask, but like mask on.
No,
on
I think
top
that's
of his head?
the Mafex one.
Oh, okay.
But he comes with this head, I think another kind of stylized head. He has the alternate reality Peter Parker head. He has 2 masked heads who have different sized eyes,
Okay,
tons
yeah.
of hands.
Alternate reality.
So, at the start of the movie,
Singing one?
at the start of the movie, there's the Peter Parker of the Miles Morales reality. He dies.
One who dies. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he comes to the head of that Peter Parker, and that's why they have swappable guts.
Yeah. That's the yes, the Wonder Woman actor guy. The one who sings the Christmas carols, I think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It comes with tons of stuff, and like, for God's sake, the coffee mug, it's incredible.
Do you have the gargoyle head there with you?
I don't. No.
Okay.
I would dig it out, but unfortunately, it's a little buried right now because, again, it's a bit of a room killer, so I don't have it actively on display.
It's big. Like, that's a big chunk.
It's huge.
Yeah.
One thing worth mentioning about that, I believe on the back is a mount. So if you want to put a nail in your wall, you can mount the gargoyle head on your wall.
That's awesome.
So
Depending on your level of commitment to keeping it
Yeah.
for a long time.
If you have display issues,
Yeah, that's one thing I thought about. Like,
Anywhere.
it's a room killer, but if it's
Yeah.
on its own on the wall, that's
You can hang out with a bunch of X-wings and Star Wars ships.
Yeah, exactly.
Mike Hex asks, is the gargoyle head plastic, resin, or stone? I don't think it's stone, but
It's plastic. It's a good solid plastic.
okay. He says probably cheaper to get the 2000 Spider-Man movie gargoyle. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Like, I mean, and that's the other thing about what was a big perk about this figure was they had a regular version and the deluxe version. The only difference is the deluxe had the gargoyle. So if you absolutely can live without the gargoyle, get the cheaper version.
Save yourself some money. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. AI, your number 1 figure of 2022.
Again, it's a bit of a cheat, but it's a set, so I know it's a bit of contention because it's the third time it's released. But I passed the first 2 times, and this second set, if you missed out, I think is kind of the perfect mesh of both first 2 sets with the clothing and accessories and stuff that it comes with. It's the Pink Skulls Chaos Club Encore. Yeah, like, it was an experience opening this, I'm not gonna lie, and it was a little overwhelming.
Very.
But even before you get into like the box of figures, it comes with a record, like comes with records, LPs, came with a t-shirt, came with an art print, and then you get into the box and it's like 3 trays. Like, you get a tray with the 3 figures with the multiple head sculpts, the next tray is all the accessories, and then the third tray you get like some more accessories, you get the figure stands. But it's just a level of detail, and like I've talked about it recently, it just seems like it's the perfect acclamation of like everything that Mezco does in like a figure set, man. Like, they finally are at the point where like the clothing fits, the stitching, the kind of material that they're using, the figure, like the base, like buck bodies are fantastic. You know what I mean? Like, I got them pretty just because I got them all set up as like a band, but they all move great, man, and I'm not worried like things are gonna bust. Like, the level of detail, like even on the shoes, you get like they're like knockoff Converse, right? Where am I? I'm mirrored, so it's screwing me up. But they have like the Mezco sign instead of like the Converse sign on the shoes. They come with like extra leather jackets and like muscle shirts. They come with like a single shirt for like the lead singer with like a pink lightning bolt on it. Like, the guitars are all fantastic.
So cool.
right? Like they come with a lot of hands, but the hands have a purpose, you know, like when they're playing guitar, they got, you know, hands that look like they're holding and playing the strings and strumming the guitar. And they have cigarettes or joints with like billowing smoke from them, right? Like they come with cans of beer that have attachments, like they're bursting, you know, you crack one open and it's bubbling up top, and glasses, goggles, different helmets and hats. The glasses are designed to fit the sculpts well too. Like this is who I have for like my lead singer right now. They all come with like the middle finger. So I'm not trying to get you demonetized here, Adam.
Oh, I'm not monetized.
Like the
do whatever you want.
The mic is fantastic. They come with a mic stand that it clips onto. Like the hats, they come with these little like gold. There's a couple of different chains. One's like the Mezco, like pink skull symbol. Sorry,
it's the excitement.
It was like just opening it, man, was an experience, dude. And usually I get overwhelmed with too much accessories, but I feel like the accessories have a place, and you have like multiple ways to display them. Like I was already looking for extra bucks and like soft good pants just so I could like make like more pink skulls to go with them, just because of the extra clothing and stuff. Like you pretty much have enough other than like body and pants and shoes to build like 3 more figures. You know what I mean? Like it's like I have, you know, and I have the box here. Like there's different layers. Like all the design on the box is fantastic.
Awesome.
Like you pop it open and it's like, you know, like everything. Like this is so you can like build a little stage. Yeah, it's, man,
you know what?
I'm gushing.
I gotta say, I hate that box, but let me explain why.
Because you have to keep it.
You have to keep it.
Yeah.
You can't get that box in hand and be like, well, I'll just pull all this stuff out and just bin this thing. And it's big. And it's like, you know, we're all in space danger for figures that are out of box. I can't imagine like when you start piling that stuff up, like there's a couple things that I keep the boxes for, but very few things. And I try as much as I can to get rid of boxes. I had a box in the recycling bin the other day and went back with the recycling to put on top of it like the next day.
Yeah.
And pulled out. I was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. And it was right there on the top staring at me. So I was like, it'll probably end up in the bin, but it's you know, I have to emotionally disconnect before I can get rid of some of these boxes.
But that's the thing, like, yeah, and I'm sure like Austin, you keep some boxes, don't you? I know like some guys who collect 1/6 scale figures, we keep the boxes for all of them. Same with statues.
Yeah.
Whether it's resale, it holds all the accessories. You know, I like my storage is pretty much all like just piled in like Tetris of like 1/6 scale boxes, right? So I hear you. Boxing, you know, having space for boxes is always an issue. Like a lot of my smaller scale stuff, I toss the boxes, man. I don't have the room to hold them or store them. But this box, well, yeah, it's definitely kept. But and I've gone on about it lots, man. It's just I feel like with the clothing and everything, like Mezco's finally at the point, and it's their IP, right? Like Austin talked about earlier, is I feel they're killing it with their IPs, man. Like their figures that they make in house are fantastic. Like the design crew there is great, man. Like the ideas that they're coming up with, man, are just fantastic. And that we're getting these at hand, and that, like, to me, that's like this is the perfect set of figures. Mind you, it's freaking expensive. And being Canadian, like that's $300 US. So you factor in shipping. I didn't have any custom fees, but shipping and taxes, it was like $430. You know what I mean? And I'm whispering so my wife doesn't fucking stab me. But man, they're fantastic, dude. Like it was the one set of figures that I was instantly blown away with. the most out of anything that I got in this year, man. And it was, you know, like I said, I had, you know, I keep going back to 1/6 because that's what I have the most of. Like essentially for like the most amount of time, that's what I've been into. It's just been over the last year that I started getting back into 6-inch scale figures. And I was all in on Mezco when they first came out. And I've talked about this before, is they didn't look right. The clothing was too thick. The bucks were, you know, the way they fit on the bucks, they almost looked like midgets. Like I don't know if that's a term that's PC or not, but they looked shorter and stockier. You know what I mean? Like they didn't look like natural humans.
Yeah.
You know, it was almost like they had like a different kind of art style to them, where now they're finally at the point, like over the last year or two, where everything's kind of come together and we're getting like perfect representations of these figures, I guess. So I don't know, man. I love them. They're great.
Yeah, I mean, if I could do it all over again and get rid of what you've kind of, I would do Mezco, Rumble Society, and the Gangrene Estates. Just what they're doing there has that level of sort of whimsy, kind of like that, and it's just a lot of the intersections, like cultural intersections for me in terms of like music and the horror and the cartoons. And I look at that box, I totally hear what Adam's saying, but it's also like at one point in one life, I was a graphic designer, and it was like, that was the dream project. You've got this like amazing thing, and it's like, okay, now how are we going to make the package live up to this thing and then exceed it? It's like, no, we're going to throw in a record too. We're going to make a 7-inch, and we're going to make music. And it's just amazing. Like, yeah, you're right. They've created their own IP, and they've really kind of built everything around it, and just respect it. It's really, really dope.
There's a lot of.
I wanted to touch base on Trevor's comment. He knows my plight, man, because you've seen his stream and you know what's in behind him, and that's just what we see.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And
that's a good point, and that's the thing. I've seen, because we did a video with him a while back, and we said, so, you know, that's your Mythic Legions collection. Like normally you see his Mythic Legions collection in a lot of videos that he does, or you see the other wall that's the 1/6. But that whole room is full of those D12 shells, and they're all full. And it's an impressive collection, and it's
and that's what I mean. You kind of just see what's in behind me. Like we all have different display spaces. Like I know you're tucked into kind of like an office, right, Kev or Adam? And I have like the whole basement pretty much. And it's wall to wall. If it's not art prints, it's display shelves. It's, you know, I also have like my huge TV and like my movie viewing section down here. Like this is my space, right? This is where I come to decompress, right? This is my happy place. So
yeah. That's I this room is great. In the future I'll probably have a bigger space. But for now, because I need to be relatively close to like where my kids play and stuff like that, so that, you know, if I'm in here being selfish, I can still jump out there if I need to. But yeah, I mean, space danger is real. I was this morning, I was working around my space that's filling up very fast. I was like, okay, I think in 2023, I'm going to rearrange this room. And really the reason was just creating more space, like where I can move around the room a little bit more freely. But all right, number one from you, Brick.
Oh, geez, yeah. All right, so
I'll just quick update. Power went out at Austin's house, which is why he dropped off.
Okay.
Oh no! I was just like, I thought he was just like, "Peace to you guys, I'm out."
Yeah, I'm done. My number one. Thanks. I'm out.
Later. Mic drop.
He's like, the other thing I just want to say on those pink skulls, man, I'm like, if I could find that perfect fitting jeans that guy's got.
Yeah, I know, right?
Right.
All right. So obviously I'm feeling a little one note with all my animals, and I have not put a single Mythic Legions out yet for a reason. And that's hard, right? I'm with you. Like, which one do I put? And so I've got kind of creatures, and I've got sort of humanoids. Right? I think I had a skeleton, humanoid, and Kyrus. You know, why choose sometimes? We can
that's wicked.
both.
I love that. I love
That's
that.
wicked, man.
Yeah, that looks great.
And the reason of all the things that came out from Four Horsemen this year, including like the Headless Horseman, which was just an amazing kind of surprise. For me, this thing is just it's amazing. Like we've got the horse, which we already know is great. It's the same. It's basically your moose, right? But to think of the innovation that goes into change a couple pieces, it's the body of a moose. Change the couple pieces, it's a horse. No, actually, it's a centaur. And
it's a centaur.
Just on top of that, this is a whole new. This is the first of the sort of the brute scale, right? It's a whole new scale figure from here on up. And so to me, this just sort of signals kind of this, like all the amazing things that this line does. Yeah. We've got, new pieces, new pauldrons. Like there's just so much going on here that absolutely, we were talking about Harryhausen, right? Earlier, like, you kind of figured out my brain. And again, typical of all the Horseman stuff, just the of Mythic Legions in particular, the details of the sculpt, this beard.
That head sculpt I think is severely underrated. I don't think I've seen enough sort of posts and sort of videos and just people commenting on how great that head sculpt is.
And I think a lot of that is just because there's so many other great things that they're putting out. And I agree with you. And I think that's why this one ended up being sort of my first. I feel like it was a little bit slept on. And I'm looking at the paint job there and the shape of the eyes. Like, this isn't, let's put a human on a horse. There's a lot more sort of thoughtful design into the shape of the nose and the brow. Anyways,
you make a good point. It doesn't look human, but it does look centaur.
Yeah. And I don't really have much else to show. Like I'm actually still kind of thinking about on the pink skulls, to be honest with you. But yeah, I mean, and that's how I ended up. That's how I ended up with this one. I definitely Legions is easily one of my favorite lines. Actually, probably my favorite line. There's a cohesion to it, but then there's just so much constant innovation. Even just this newest wave that's on pre-order, it's like innovation upon innovation. And this, to me, at this moment where we're at with a line, as far as what we have in hand, is kind of a real cool like signal and hint of what's to come. So, and then there's Cosmic, and then it's and again, I think I'm very much so don't get me wrong, like I am very much a nerd. I was born in 1976. I was there through the 80s, saw all sorts of awesome movies, cartoons, and so that stuff is definitely in my DNA. So I just want to say, like with both like the Rumble Society and stuff like this, when someone can be like, great, we know you love that stuff, and we know that's kind of an easy sell for you, but check this out, and that it can fully pull me in, like that takes some special kind of something. So anyway,
I'm right there with you.
Apharius. Sorry, I just realized because some people like earlier with Tyrus are like, who is this figure? This is Apharius of Zylona's flock from Mythic Legions, and he is a centaur, or they are a centaur. I'm not fully sure, but yeah.
Mike Hex said, I'm just starting with Mythic Legions way late in the game. I only got Santa and the Unknown because D. Blake makes enabling. I need to learn what's what. Reach out to me. Reach out to Brick. We're happy to chat about them. We're relatively new as well, but I can certainly give you a few sort of tips and pointers and sort of help you avoid some of the pitfalls, because you can go down the Mythic Legions rabbit hole real fast, and it gets real deep real quick. My biggest advice would be buy what's coming, and be prepared to wait. And in the meantime, if you can pick up a couple things here and there, do that, but don't go too crazy right off the bat, because the reality, like you mentioned, Brick, there's so much good stuff coming, and it'll be here before you know it. So
yeah, and I would just say, like, get one, and just play with it and enjoy it, and pick one, because they're I don't know. I know there are folks who are completists.
Yeah.
I can't even begin to wrap my head around what that would be. Like that moose alder, I would love to have alder, but gotta pause somewhere.
Man.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I gotta. But yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say there's definitely some stuff that you guys have shown on your top 5 list that I'm jealous of that I didn't grab, but
exactly.
Somebody heard you.
Walked in the room.
I wasn't in the video.
No, you
So,
were
anyways, I'm totally blown away on how little money we spent this year because of all the great sales that came in, and
Thanks, man.
yeah. No, it just you gotta be selective. If you're of the means to just get whatever, like you do you. But as we've said before, like they keep innovating, and all these companies keep innovating as new things come out.
You can't
so they're
have
gonna
it all.
and I think we said this last time, Adam, when we were on. I was like, if there's points where you feel like I need to get this, I'm looking at, turn around, look at your existing collection, like just spend time with it, because and don't forget that, like, you do have a lot of great things already. And anyway, that said, this thing's awesome, and that's my number 1.
Trevor said it's a cozy, fun rabbit hole, though. We have cookies. You know what? Trevor makes a good point, albeit facetiously. They're amazing figures. They're tons of fun in hand. They look great in photos, but once you get them in hand, you can really appreciate how great they are. Mike Hext said, like, should I he's asking, about Mythic Legends, should I bother chasing a Black Templar or wait it out? I just want 2 gray or Black Knights to customize. That's a great one.
Oh.
And if it's the Deluxe Legion Builder Black Templar, that should be pretty easy to find. My biggest advice is, if you can buy it at retail, it's a good price, because they go up in price really, really fast. And so if you can get one at retail, absolutely jump on that. And if you can't find one, I know of a retailer that has them.
Over this way.
Hit up Mike at eCollectibles. It's in Canada, but I'll tell you what, after the exchange rate, which sucks for us and really works if you're south of the border,
Absolutely.
They're pretty much on par price wise.
Yeah, just follow the Alpha Flight logo up here. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. More or less. Master Versal says, yes, indeed. So I got me a Farius, then the Barbarian Legion Builder, then last week the Bronze Dwarf Legion Builder, the figure obscure Father Christmas, all locally here in Eternia. If you're not familiar with Master Versal Toy Hunter, check him out. It's a trip, man.
Eldor from Eternia for sure.
Yeah.
Question: Is this rude? Is this rude?
See, that's what I was thinking. That's perfect. There you go. It's a mount now.
16-bit Misfit says, repeat after me. I can't collect all
the things.
Says you.
Daz mentions this. Building some dioramas for your figures is a good way to appreciate them. I absolutely agree. I found that when there's sort of a downtime, when people tend to get in that mode of like, when are we getting more stuff? That's when I tend to have more time to work on dio stuff. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, like, hit up your Home Depot or your local hardware store, get a couple sheets of insulation foam.
Yep.
Go to the craft store, get some black paint and some white paint and a cheap toothbrush. Not a toothbrush. You can get a paintbrush that's more effective.
I hit Dollarama and Dollar Tree for stuff.
Yep. Just start messing around and playing with your toys. And I mean, I'll tell you what, like, for not a lot of money, you can get a whole lot of dio if you're willing to put in some work.
Yep.
If you're not familiar with Daz's channel, that's exactly what he does, and I've learned so much and just kind of like been inspired by some of the things that he's done. So they're real good kind of tutorial type.
Yeah.
That's one thing I love about doing the toy photography. I'm back, by the way, in case anyone missed me.
Welcome back to electricity.
Welcome.
Oh, I don't have electricity. I'm on data right now. So
Oh.
Well, we won't go much longer. I know that AI's got to go pretty soon here too. Mike Hex just said, like, my problem is I don't know what retail is yet. Yeah, and that's problematic because different retailers raise prices. You can get them from Four Horsemen for like 37 US, but retail, like the actual MSRP, is like 40 to 50, depending on what the figure is.
Yeah.
The Moose and the Afarius that Brick just showed are a little bit more because they're obviously bigger. So scale typically relates to the price. I would argue that for the price, the value is really, really good. And he says, I only go complete on buying Venom or Deadpool. I would say at the prices that you're getting Marvel Legends stuff, Mythic Legions is a much better value for money, I think. But that's
this
my
scale.
opinion.
You won't find anything this nicely painted.
Yeah.
Not even comparing to Mezco and Mafex and all that, which are phenomenal figures. But if you're looking at like paint quality, Mythic Legions takes the lead in this 1/12 scale.
Yeah.
And Mike, I mean, we mentioned, I think you said 45, but the figures right now are 37 on pre-order. So, January 15th.
Or 16th in Canada, where we can start ordering them without the hassle of shipping them across the border. All right, so moving on to my number one, AI. I know you have to go to work at some point, so if you duck out at any point, we won't hold it against you. We'll definitely have you back on again very, very soon if you don't get a word in while we're sort of going through the next thing. I'm going to do my number one, and before I do that, I'll just put it out there. If you have your number one, let us know what it is in the comments, and we'll quickly sort of discuss that. We don't have an endless amount of time, but we'll discuss as many of the number ones as we can. My number one is one that honestly just it just hits all the feels. It absolutely checks all the boxes of IP that I love, nostalgia, great action figure, poses in the poses that I want it to. But this is where that callback to the very beginning where I said all the articulation isn't necessary. It is the Super 7 TMNT Ultimates Raphael. Now, this is the re-release, so this is technically a 2022 release, even though it was released for the first time, I believe, in 2021. But these guys are just so much fun. They're not for everybody. I get that, some people have criticisms of the articulation, that it doesn't have perfect articulation. Some of them have, loose hips or loose knees or loose legs. Sorry. Mine has been great. I love the vintage heads that it comes, like the vintage inspired head that it comes with. My preference is for the updated heads that they come with. The weapons that they come with are a lot of fun. The posability's there. The articulation is where I need it to be. There's a couple issues I have with Donatello in terms of poses that I can get him in with his bow, but all in all together, Raphael's my number one and sort of a representation of the line, because I could have picked any one of the turtles or a couple other figures in the line and been very happy with my pick there. But yeah, just a great line, a super, super fun line. But like I said, again, like, AI does the cartoon turtles. I was talking to somebody the other day that does the Archie comics turtles. Ryan Dole was saying that he does the Archie's turtles from NECA. You do have to pick and choose. I can't collect all the things. I have to draw the line somewhere. So, it's just one of those things where that's been on my desk since the day that I got it. Like, I clean off my counter, my office desk here. When I do the live videos, I face this wall. When I do the unboxing videos, I actually face that wall that's over there. But he always just sort of stays on the table. I always make room that he can stay on the table, and he gets posed and he gets sort of played with. And when I do unboxings, I tend to put him in for scale comparisons as well, because he's right there on my desk. So why not? But yeah, that's my number one. And really excited for some of the stuff that's coming from Super 7 soon. I shout out to Animal Warriors of the Kingdom. I was really hoping that I would have those in time for my 2022 top figures of the year. Brick, I know that you're waiting for those. Austin, I don't know if I've convinced you yet to get a couple. I think you've ordered a couple, maybe not.
Not
Aaron,
yet. It turns into where do they go? I have nowhere to put them.
well, we'll figure that out when they get here. AI, I'll start working on you soon too for those, but I think those are going to be amazing, and I'm really looking forward to those. These are our lists for 2022. So much good stuff came out this year, and despite that, believe it or not, they're still bringing out more toys next year, if you can believe it. Just jumping back into the comments here. Let's see what people picked. Sorry, there's been a bunch, so I'm just trying to. Mike Heck said Mafex Classic Paint Spider-Man came out of nowhere. I'm torn between that or Mafex Symbiote being number one. I think that's one of those ones where if you pick them as number one and number one adjacent, because it's the same character, it's the same company. I mean, it's he's got the other suit underneath, technically. Right?
Yeah, but the funny thing about Mafex is even though you can imagine a classic costume Spider-Man and a symbiote Spider-Man, it's probably the exact same figure, just different paint apps.
They don't.
That might not be the case. I'm sure they're going to have very similar parts, but it might be a different sculpt. So I mean, I'm sure you can make it adjacent, but you can also make the argument, no, they're two different figures.
That's not how I'm wired. I'd let it
sculpted lines and stuff, right? But at the end of the day, it's your list. You can do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, exactly.
I had two Mecha Turtles as
there.
my number two, right? Yeah, it's all relative.
16-bit says the Tokan Razor 2-pack. Facebook user who I can only imagine is Jay because he refuses to let StreamYard see who he is. Mythic Legion's Half Giant kind of hits the spot with moose antlers, beard, and Ram Warhammer. What he's talking about, if you don't know, I don't have the Half Giant unboxed. That's on the desk for next time. But I do have the Half Giant head with moose antlers, which looks absolutely phenomenal. A great figure and an update. They updated that figure to make it even better than it was the last time it came out. There's the Half Giant.
Pop his head off and put on that Noble Barch
exactly
accessory pack. They mentioned specifically that hammer. Woo.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Dad says I wouldn't have thought this would be my number one, but I love playing with it. Hasbro's Legacy Beast Wars Inferno. Just great for posing. Lots of character and personality. Absolutely. I grabbed a few of the like when Netflix was doing the Earthrise stuff, I grabbed a few of those and they're phenomenal. That version of Optimus Prime, forget it. It's such a great representation of that G1 look.
I'm excited for that Inferno too. He was such a character in the show. I love him.
Yeah. Mike Heck says I was hoping that Mafex Deadpool X-Force style would hit, but it hit delays. Yeah, fair enough.
That's the gray and black.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mezco Golden Age Batman.
That's a good one. Very good.
Austin, this one's for you.
Oh, that's one.
Greg says I need my apes. Issa says you look so handsome, Daddy Austin.
I made the mistake of sending some links to some questionable people.
Greg says Atticus Doom number one, Constantine, Dark Knight Returns Superman, Spirit, Half Giant with accessory pack. Austin narrate my audiobook. I just need to write the book. Trevor says Alder is probably my choice, and the Hot Toys Dark Trooper is pretty damn cool. Not sure if the Razor Crest counts, but that would be up there too. Yeah, that's a great one. That's a great one.
Oh, I forgot about how would I forget about the Razor Crest?
Like the HasLab?
Yeah. A long time, man.
Was that 2022? Oh, I guess
I can't remember. That might have been 2021.
Right.
Oh, right.
Des has some great figures in the War for Cybertron line. Yes, absolutely. And I'm running out of shelf space, and I'm not a Transformer guy, so I'm trying to pack some away, and I'm having a real hard time deciding which ones stay and which ones go. Facebook user Bebop and Rocksteady Ultimate Super 7. Not sure if they came out this year or last, but I just got them out. Yeah, those are great figures, and those have terrible articulation, and I still love them. Flash from Super 7 is nice, but Archie by NECA is top tier. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm with you there, Mike. Beautiful figure, man.
Last one, Austin, I promise.
No.
Greg says, thanks for the stream,
Juan
gents.
is
Lots of
urbano.
fun. Happy holidays to all. And on Greg's note of Trev says, I believe the Razor Crest shipped in January, so it's it just makes it under the cut. And if it's shipped in December, you didn't arrive till January. I guess that would make it anyways too. But Dude Man says, am I too late? Well, yes, we're just finishing up.
Always the replay, bud.
Yeah, you can always catch it in replay. If you liked the video, hit the like, hit the subscribe. If you want to know when we're going to be on so you don't miss it completely, hit the notification button as well. And on that note, just a couple quick notes about the Christmas draw / giveaway. I'm going to be doing a video on Christmas Day, much to the displeasure of my wife. My kids are excited because I said I might do it just in the living room and have, kids running around and just sort of the ambiance of Christmas Day sort of going on in the background. But I will be doing a little contest. There's going to be 3 prizes. One for sort of anybody and everybody that enters, a prize for anybody that is on the stream live with me, as well as a very special prize specifically for our G.I. Joe Classified Northern Outpost Facebook group. Forgive me if you're not in that group. Unfortunately, we can't let everybody in as a Canadian-only group because we don't like Americans. Some exceptions are made. Brick. We'll allow it. I
mean, I get it. I get it.
But to be eligible for that contest, it's one of these very familiar, like, subscribe, and comment things. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, and comment on this video. What is your favorite figure of 2022? It's that easy. That's all you got to do. And then you'll be eligible for, 1 or 2, depending. And then tune in on Christmas Day, and you'll be eligible for that 3rd prize. And the only other thing is the winners must contact me before December 30th because I will be going on vacation. And if I don't know where you are and I can't send the prize to you, you're out of luck. No exceptions. Dude Man is just in time, so I will allow this. Amazing Yamaguchi would be the GOAT if he had a better cape.
Oh, he's probably referring to the Superman figure.
Superman.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, he followed up with his last comment there.
Yeah, that was their first attempt at soft goods, and it was not great.
Well, first attempt, you got to give him a little bit.
Exactly.
You got to give him a little bit of it. Dad says, done all 3. Apologies, I'm not Canadian. We will, apology accepted. Not everybody can be as amazing as we are, but you can try. You can aspire. And we appreciate that. On that note, if you guys want more information about these guys, you want to see their videos, their photos, what they're up to, the descriptions are all down below in the description, not in Austin's head. Further down than that in the description for the video. It's been an absolute pleasure. I think we could keep going for a lot longer, but we won't. AI, I know you need to go. I need to get going pretty quick here as well. So on that note, I'm not even going to let you guys say goodbye. I'm just going to end the broadcast where we are right now. If you guys are interested, both the audience, feel free to come back, and you guys, because this panel I think is a lot of fun. If you guys want to come back, we can do our most anticipated of 2023. We will do that kind of the first week in January if you guys are up for it. You don't have to agree to it now, but stay tuned for that because I think that one's fun, and I think there might be more sort of back and forth discussion. We may all learn about things that we didn't even know were coming out in 2023 for that one. Maybe by then I'll convince these guys to get the Animal Warriors, the Kingdom stuff, and then that can just be our number 1 for all 4 of us.
I'll back you up. Back you up.
Exactly. It'll be a versus match, a 2-on-2. But on that note, guys, thank you so much for joining me. Both you guys on the panel and the people all in the chat. It's been an absolute pleasure and a ton of fun. Until next time, thank you. Bye-bye.